chemical reactions are happening in the cells of an organism. So in every one of your cells, there's a lot of chemical reactions happening, which are called metabolism. And each circle here represents a particular kind of chemical. And if they are, or what's called a metabolite, if they are connected, that means that a chemical reaction involving one of them creates the other one. And metabolic networks are really important for understanding all kinds of things about how our cells work, diseases that affect us, and what chemical reactions are the most important for life, for understanding life. Here's another kind of network that you've seen quite a lot, airplane network. But what's really interesting, is here we have what we all know. There's hubs, like Houston or New York or whatever. And there's lots of cities there's a few hubs and many, many cities that are not hubs, that, have only one connection, whereas Houston has, hundreds of connections. But if we look at those networks that we saw before, you see something very similar. A small number of hubs and a large number of entities that do not have lots of connections. That's also true in bank networks where each individual node is a bank, and they're connected if they do some kind of financial transaction with another bank. And you can see that there's certain banks that are very highly connected, like Deutsche Bank, and there's lots of banks that don't have as many connections. So there's something common going on here, similar to the US power grid. And thinking about the structure of the network helps us think about ways in which it can fail catastrophically, right? The World Wide Web, this is a small part of the World Wide Web, but it looks very much like most of the World Wide Web. If each one of these is a website that has connections to other sites, there's hubs, and there's small amount of hubs and lots of individuals that don't have lots of connections. So there's something very kind of common going on here. So I want to tell you a little bit in the last 15 minutes or so about this science of networks that people have now. Instead of studying all these different networks in individual fields like neuroscience, social science,